Hello and welcome to the first grammar pattern in lesson 1, demonstrative pronouns. This is a very difficult grammar pattern. This introduces two concepts that don't exist in English, and anytime we're doing things that don't exist in English, it can be a little bit tricky. So you might wonder, why in the world did you put something so difficult as the very first grammar pattern in the very first lesson, lesson 1? The reason is because it is quite basic, so there's lots of very basic ways of using this grammar pattern, and also the idea was if I put it very early on in my content, then I can use it and the students will be able to practice it and get used to it and get better at it by practicing it over and over throughout the course of the lessons. So let's get into it. Again, we were talking about demonstrative pronouns, which is a fancy word that you don't need to know. Demonstrative pronouns is just a word that's saying that we're using words to refer to things without calling them by their name. So for example, here I have my phone, and the word that we use to refer to this would be phone. But if I wanted to talk about it without using the word phone, I could just say this. So the word this is a demonstrative pronoun. In order to make these words, we're going to be combining what I like to call prefixes and suffixes. We have 3 prefixes and 3 suffixes that we're going to be looking at today. And the reason why I call them prefixes and suffixes is because these words, most of them are going to be made up of just 2 characters, the first character and the second character. So of course the first character is the prefix character and the second one is the suffix character. Hopefully at this point you should have already looked through the lesson 1 vocabulary and already learned that the word kore means this. And that's a good place to start because kore is also just 2 characters. We have the ko character and we have the re character as well. Now, looking at what that ko character means, the prefix ko is used when we're saying that there is something that is close to the speaker. So right now, me as the speaker, when I say kore, the reason why I can use ko is because this object is close to me as the speaker. We've also learned that the word sore means that, and the reason why sore means that is because the so prefix is used to talk about something that's close to the listener. So if I'm with somebody and they have a phone, I would then use sore instead of kore. So kore if it's close to me, and sore if it's close to you as the listener. We now get to our first thing that exists in Japanese that doesn't exist in English, and that's the ah prefix. Ah is used when we're talking about something that is far away from both the speaker and the listener. I like to imagine if there's 2 people sitting in a park and they both have an apple in their hand, and they're sitting on a bench and the person looks at their apple and they say kore, and then they look at the apple that the person they're talking to has and they say sore. And then they point in the distance and they're pointing at an apple that's on a tree in the distance. They would then say are. They're using ah because it's far away from both the speaker and the listener. In English, both of those words sore and are will translate to that. We would say that is an apple, and then we would point at the apple way on the tree far away and say that is an apple. So both do translate to that, again, because that concept just doesn't quite exist in English. Moving on to suffixes, starting with the suffix re, that's the one that we were just using, and re is used when we're referring to an object and we're not using its name. So kore means this and sore means that. A good example sentence, kore wa oishii. This is delicious. Now it's important to know that when we're using the suffix of re is used as a noun, the re suffix. So kore is a noun. That's why we can say kore wa. The wa particle marks a subject, and because kore is a noun, it can be the subject. This is delicious. But moving on to our second suffix here, we once again, unfortunately, have something that exists in Japanese that we don't quite have in English. And the no suffix is when we're referring to something, but we're also calling it by name. This kind of functions more like an adjective than it does a noun. Actually, it is not a noun at all. And so if we have an example like kono sushi wa oishii, now it's this sushi is delicious. So kono sushi, this sushi. Kore and kono, we can see both translate to the word this, but in this case, kono is being used to modify the word sushi. What sushi are we talking about? We're talking about this sushi. Kono gives us more information. So this is not a noun because we can't have two nouns smashed up against each other like this. So kono has to be doing something different. Just another example to show you a little bit more visually. Again, I have my phone here, so I could say, kore wa denwa, this is a phone. But if I want to say this phone is black, kono denwa wa kuroi. Because I'm now using the word this in order to give more information about the phone, it has to be kono instead. And of course, they can combine with these prefixes from earlier. So if we say sono sushi, we now mean that sushi. And there's also ano as well, if we're talking about something far away from both the speaker and the listener. The last one, luckily, is the easier one. The ko suffix is used to refer to location. So you probably know that koko means here. And the reason why it means here is because that first ko is the prefix saying that it's close to the speaker. And the second ko is saying that the word is a location. So close to the speaker location is the word here. Koko. Soko means there, close to the listener. And we do have an irregular. You would expect a plus ko to just be ako, but ako is not a word in this case. It instead will be asoko, as we see as an irregular right here. Asoko means a place way over there. And so, at the end of the day, these are just vocabulary words. If we combine all three prefixes with all three suffixes, that gives us a total of 9 words. If you would like to learn these as vocabulary words, that's something you can do. You can just simply learn that kore means this, sore means that, are means that thing farther away. But these words will all be used very frequently throughout the rest of the lessons, so it's good to be pretty familiar with these. There's also these demonstrative pronoun cards, which I think do a very good job of visually representing these words here. So definitely check those out if you get a chance to. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Maybe it broke your brain a little bit, and that's fine. Again, it's perfectly fine to not have a mastery of this at this point, because it will be practiced a lot from this point forward, and it's something that is fine to just slowly gather over time. But hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next lesson.